Remember when you could ask your friends who were expecting their first child what they were hoping for, a boy or a girl, and the happy couple might answer something along the lines of, either, we just want a healthy baby. But from there, you might go into possible names, Emily if it's a girl, Jake if it's a boy, that sort of thing. Remember those days? Seems hard to believe that something so fundamental, something that is just basic human biology, is being social engineered out of existence. Welcome to Bourbon and Bullets, and today we're talking about how many genders it takes to screw in a light bulb. Trick question, it's zero because light is just a social construct. We're not quite at the point yet where SJWs and leftist professors and the teachers indoctrinating your children have decided that artificial illumination is just a product of the white patriarchal capitalist regime oppressing the snowflakes and is therefore offensive, but can that day be too far off? Meanwhile, in Canada, we no longer, by law, can express observations on whether one is a man or a woman without falling afoul of the thought police. Bill C-16 expands hate crimes to misgendering someone, and in a world where there are anywhere from 32, according to New York City, or 64, according to Facebook, genders, misgendering someone can be a real hazard. And yes, I'm being facetious, obviously, but much to the chagrin of government and institutions of higher learning, the vast majority of us, somewhere along the lines of 99.999%, you get the idea, identify as male or female. And no, not because we were assigned our gender at birth by a doctor, but because most humans, even the crazed SJWs, though they are loath to admit it, can use simple visual cues to tell us whether or not a person standing before us is male or female. And do I really have to list the differences between men or women? Or can I take it as read my viewers know what a human female looks like and what a human male looks like? But what about the femme-looking men and masculine-looking women? Some of the more discerning of you may ask. Yes, some men and women, usually gay but not always, can blur the lines between the sexes. They, however, are not gender fluid, otherkin, two-spirited, gender, non-binary, or whatever other made-up gender they demand to be called. They're androgynous-looking males or females. This is nothing new. Androgynous-looking people have been around, since there have been people. In Shakespeare's day, women used to attend plays dressed as men, oftentimes with cutlasses strapped to their waist. Make whatever phallic reference to that you want. Many other cultures have accommodated to varying degrees those square pegs who don't fit the male-female round hole over the centuries. However, what didn't happen, that is until the second decade of the 21st century, was that a tiny minority of the population demanded the rest of us change the entire structure of the human race. So men looking for a female mate, falling in love, okay, sure, not always, having children, and repeat, is now an oppressive social construct. In Toronto a few years back, a couple made news announcing they were raising their child, named Storm, genderless. The little girl, yes, we now know she's a girl, age 6, the parents tell us, barely masking their disappointment, goes by the pronoun she, not they or zero or z or whatever. Proudly, though, they have 2 other children whom they have done a masterful job in confusing the hell out of and ensuring they, or more likely the state, will be burdened with years of psychiatry bills. Not to be outdone, a woman, yeah, we know you're a woman, Corey. I mean, just because a hormonal imbalance allowed you to grow facial hair doesn't change that fact. Anyway, she wants a genderless birth certificate for her child and is suing the government of British Columbia to make it happen. Hot on the tail of that little bit of craziness is the lesbian couple in Toronto. Again, yes, we know you're women, even though one of you is androgynous. That doesn't change your biology. So these 2 women want not just a genderless birth certificate and health card for their child, but for all Canadians. Look, as I said, you want to be different, you don't feel you fit into any of the prescribed slots, great. It's a free country. Be who you want, as long as you're not hurting yourself or anyone else. But the above cases, and many more like it in Canada and the US and elsewhere, with the recent fad, and yes, it is a fad, in transgenderism, has seen an explosion of parents actively encouraging their children to be transgender. That, as far as I'm concerned, is child abuse. YouTuber Blair White, a trans woman herself, has made that point in many of her commentaries, coming from the perspective of someone who has transitioned from male to female. Well, sort of. She does acknowledge she can, of course, never be fully biologically female, but she's happy living as a woman, and because she tries to look like a woman, and does, she's accepted by society. More importantly, she's not trying to change society or basic biology because she feels oppressed. Theron Meyer is another libertarian, conservative-leaning trans woman who appeared on an Ontario talk show with Dr. Jordan Peterson in a debate with several SJW academics, who themselves asserted that claiming there is just male and female genders is not only offensive, but violence. Seriously. Meyer, again from the perspective of someone transgendered, noted to be transgendered, you actually have to be transitioning from one sex to the other. Otherwise, as I've noted, you're just androgynous. Dr. Peterson, of course, has been in the news a lot for his very public opposition to Bill C-16, saying that he will never allow the government to tell him what words he may or may not use. Hear, hear. And it's a sad state of affairs indeed that in a presumably free country, we're not only having that debate, but we're having that debate in the face of an already passed legislation requiring us to do just that, use only government-approved words, or specifically the correct pronouns, quote unquote. And in keeping with the free to be who you are sentiment I expressed earlier, except if you're doing harm to others, well, yeah, restricting our freedom so you can, I don't know what, somehow feel better about yourself, that does a lot of harm. We live in a strange world indeed, where, as I said, the tiny minority now dictate how the rest of us must think, even to the point of denying the reality of basic science and fundamental human traits. Well, thanks as always for watching, and please tune in next week for yet another installment of just how goddamn crazy can this world get.